This is what allows you, when you have a template, to show something in the template, and then if you change something in the database, somehow your template just changes, right? A big part of that is tracker, because whenever, I won't talk about the mechanism of it right now, but the way tracker works is really, really easy to set up. It's kind of magical. The way Redux works to achieve sort of the same thing, I think, is not magical. It's very explicit, which is good, but it's also much more difficult, I think, to use. So, so my question for you, Arunoda, is: do you think that, like, what do you think about tracker versus Redux? Should we just throw away tracker? Should we use tracker sometimes? Do you think tracker is going to go away, you know, forever? Well, and when I say go away, I mean we had like some what I thought were kind of excessive talks about things going away. Like, code doesn't really disappear. Like, you can keep using the code that you downloaded; it doesn't break. When the way code goes away is people stop using it. Yeah. That's how code goes away. So if you're afraid that code is going away, your code will disappear. You won't be able to use it. Well, that's not true. The reason the code will go away is because you stopped using it and everyone else did too, and so it just falls out of use and then it disappears. So what do you think, Arunoda?
Okay, this is how I think about tracker versus Redux. Let's say if you want to build something very quickly, I think, and then if you need to use like Blaze or MongoDB live data with Meteor, I think tracker is one of the best way to do it, because everything is perfect. You could use it very easily. But then again, if you're using something like REST endpoints or something else with Apollo, or maybe something else, then you could go with Redux. So it's depend on the use case, and I think I still think, like, even though Meet is changing, we could use we will have some version of Meteor, or maybe even in the 2018 that could work as it is. So then we could use a tracker for that. Then I don't think it's a good idea to use Redux with all the minimum, so all the live data and all the stuff, because it's not like, well, there's no integration with Redux. There's no good integration with Redux and live data. So if you're using live data like normal MongoDB, so then it's ideal to go with tracker. Then if you go with something like REST endpoints, or maybe with Apollo, or maybe some other thing, then go with Redux.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, Apollo itself is built on Redux, right? Yeah. So that's kind of the pattern it is in Apollo. So you don't have to use that part of Apollo. You can certainly do any form of reactivity you want with it, but it's very easy to use Redux with it. There's actually a built-in way in Apollo to have it included in your own use of Redux. Now, one thing I think is kind of interesting is that there's actually, someone took tracker and stuck it on NPM, because tracker is actually a very compact library. There's not a whole lot. It's like maybe 300 lines of code or something. It's a pretty neat little piece of code if you ever want to look at it. I think it was written by Jeff Schmidt. Okay. Actually, Redux is not very big either. So these are really interesting bits of code. If you're trying to like go a little deeper into how some of the more complicated things work, these are actually pretty approachable libraries to actually go and read the code. Whereas something like live data in Meteor is like a bunch of lines of code and would be much more difficult to parse out. But tracker, so there's a tracker library on NPM that's like tracker without the final E, so TRACKR. Oh, yeah, it's up on screen. So actually, like, you could pull tracker into any app now, and I think it's like really appealing for, it could be.
So I was wondering,